Welcome back to Beer and Business. We're here at the Community Brewery as our backdrop where we're talking entrepreneurships with another entrepreneur. This time it's Kevin Lavelle, who founded Mizzen in Maine, the shirt maker that most of you may know about, the magic fabrics that stretch with you. And it is great to have you here.
Glad to be here. It's a great spot.
Well, first of all, tip of the hat to Community Brewery for letting us film here. And what do you have?
I typically like a lighter beer, so Bad Hombre. Here we go.
Really? And I have got a public ale, stepping away from wit beer, which is one of my absolute favorites in all of beerdom, if beerdom is a word.
It is now.
Love it. So thank you so much.
Cheers. Oh, it's good.
Isn't it great stuff?
Oh, yeah.
It's the entrepreneurship and the spirit that's here at Community Brewery is amazing, and what they do is just really carved a niche in craft brewery. But you've also carved a niche and also a very crowded space, and this is men's fashion. So how did you go from an engineering degree at SMU to men's fashion and following the entrepreneurial spirit?
I did not set out to be an entrepreneur straight out of school. I actually got a job as a management consultant for a few years and then worked as an investment analyst. But what that taught me was how to look at complex problems, industries with lots of competitors, how are people breaking in, how are people doing things differently, and how great companies are built. And I used that as a foundation to launch Mizzen in Maine in July of 2012.
Fantastic. And it looks like your co-founder is a rather close personal friend.
So definitely more than just my friend, my wife.
Your wife?
I started the business about 2 or 3 months after we got married. So she actually worked a full-time real job to keep us afloat for a while, and then came home to the family farm, if you will, and was our CMO for a number of years. She actually just stepped up into a new role. She's now a full-time mom. We have a 14-month at home, so she's very excited about that. But it was such an amazing experience to work side by side. When I was traveling, she was packing and shipping. We went to trade shows together. We did interviews together. We spoke together at conferences. Just an absolutely unbelievably rewarding experience.
What's interesting is, a lot of the ways people make choice. So you just said you didn't start out to be an entrepreneur, but how did you choose men's fashion, Mizzen in Maine? Because with an engineering degree and as a management consultant, I think you were in the Middle East working with some oil and gas, it would seem that fashion is way over here. How did you happen in to say, wow, here's where I see a gap. I'm gonna go plug that gap because I've got some real good ideas.
Yeah, from engineering and consulting into menswear was not a straight shot, although it was for me, not for most people. But ultimately it is, as you said, I saw an opportunity. I thought this could be done differently, this could be done better. I watched a guy run into a building soaked in sweat about a decade ago and thought, why not make a dress shirt out of performance fabrics? In golf, it was almost unacceptable to wear performance polos for a number of years. And then all of a sudden, Nike popularized the dry fit polo. Tiger Woods started wearing it. Some younger guys started wearing it. And now you're crazy if you play golf and you're not wearing a performance polo. So why couldn't you do the same thing in dress shirts? Guys wear dress shirts even more than they wear polos. But at the time, I thought, man, if it was such a good idea, someone would have done it by now. It's a great roadblock to entrepreneurship or even innovation within companies. Turns out there are reasons why existing companies didn't want to do it, and they waited for us to build up a big industry in performance menswear before they started copying us. We proved that guys wanted it, but we needed to be the first one to get there, and I think a lot, the quote is attributed to Henry Ford. He didn't actually say it, but if I asked my customers what they would have wanted, they would have said faster horses, right? He saw an opportunity to do something different and better, and that's where the car came from. Why not carry that forward into plenty of other opportunities?
Hiring people takes time to master because you have to get it wrong enough times. You develop your intuition of observing people, seeing were they telling me straight, were they not telling me straight, and it just takes time to do that. Yeah. There's other things you say, doggone it, I wish someone had told me this on day one because I'm smart enough I could have applied some of those tips. So through that lens, what are some of the things that you wish someone had told you on day one?
They are hard-learned lessons, but it's going to take much longer than you think. It's going to cost a lot more money than you think. And it's going to be a lot harder than you could ever imagine. Now, someone could have told me that and it still wouldn't have prepped me, but as I've looked through the experience, some things have happened far faster and been far more rewarding than I could have ever imagined, but ultimately, it just takes a long time to build anything. Very, very few things of value just happen. Those overnight success stories rarely are, or the actual overnight success stories where something pops in the first year and all of a sudden it's a household name. That is so much more the exception than the rule. You really need to take the time to do it right, make the appropriate investments, hire those right people, hit some stumbling blocks. That's how you can build something of value over the long term.
in the halls of entrepreneurship, you'll hear overnight success. Yeah, I was an overnight success, 7 years in the making.
Absolutely.
Which was really all the time of testing and redoing and following things like Peter Thiel's 0 to 1, keep iterating, keep iterating, keep iterating, and you get closer and closer and closer to the bore site of your actual goal, and it's never exactly the path you set out on day one.
Absolutely.
You know, when I think of Peter Thiel in that book, I think of the trial and error. Can you share an error or errors that happened early on that you handled it the right way and they turned out okay? And then also go the other side, an error that came up that you absolutely, you thought you were doing the right thing, but it just didn't work out and it was a mess.
So one time we did something wrong and managed to kind of fix it. That would be in the middle of last year. We shipped a set of chinos to customers, and based on something that we uncovered at the very last minute after we'd already shipped quite a few of those units, we realized it did not meet our quality standards. So we let them know, keep the chinos, we're going to refund you, and here's a gift from us because this did not meet our standards, our expectations, we want to make it right. And our hope there is that people know they can always make a good investment in Mizzen and Main, and if it doesn't turn out to be what they expected, we're going to make it right. Now, an opportunity or a situation that did not go quite right, many years ago, we'd ordered some fabric. It seemed really great. It was super exciting. It was going to be a great new product. And we just didn't do the due diligence ahead of time in terms of what our customers wanted, how much it was going to cost, and we just rushed it through and we released it. And based on how much that product cost us to make, we just had to charge way too much for it. Product didn't sell that well. It took a long time. Thankfully, it was early on and we didn't make that many of it. But it was a great lesson for us to step back. Let's fully cost things before we make them. Let's understand the demand. Let's understand the pricing. We need to know our place in the market before we just convince ourselves, this is great, let's go make it. That was a very valuable lesson at that scale many years ago before it got too big.
So you're in downtown Dallas and you're supporting Dallas entrepreneurship. You're a big proponent of the city and all of it stands for. And you've got, what, 33, 35 people, something like that right now. Man, that's not a huge crew to be operating a big brand like this. What do you look for in the people that you say, okay, we're going to bring that person in? Because one person could certainly affect 33 people. That's not a giant squad.
Absolutely. A key thing that we're trying to build at Mizzen and Main is value. Value for our customers, value for our team, value for our investors, value for our supply chain. So what I look for is this person going to drive value above and beyond anyone else that I might find in that role? Do they have intellectual curiosity? Do they want to work as long as it takes to get it done? But then look back at it and say, maybe I didn't have to work 12 hours on this. Maybe there was a better way, and then maybe I can share that knowledge with the rest of the team. That's going to create almost that viral coefficient of value internally, where it's not just get the job done, go home, get the job done, go home, but how can I add more value to the team? How can I make the company better? How can I make myself better? How can I make my team better? If that's what I feel from meeting that person, that they're really going to drive value, that's what I'm going to look for. It's different for different roles, different for different skill types. But ultimately, I think that's something that's lost in interviews. People think that they just need to meet a set of requirements. Show me that you can drive value. Show me that you understand the challenges we face and that you're excited to get your hands dirty and really create something meaningful for the team, for our customers, for our investors, and for our suppliers.
Culture is so important in startups, and they say that culture, a lot of culture, not the full culture, but a lot of culture, it comes out of two vectors. How does the organization treat you when you make a mistake, and how does the organization treat you when there's success or celebrations? What do you do at Mizzen and Main on those two vectors? Because every CEO has to determine what are we going to be and how are we going to handle these two issues.
Absolutely. Look, show me a company where no one makes mistakes and I'll show you a company where everyone's lying or people don't stick around for very long. Mistakes happen. It's okay. I make them all the time.
You just described government.
Yeah, exactly. I make mistakes all the time, and I know one of our core values as a company is we're people too. So I don't want to treat people in a way that I wouldn't want to be treated myself. And it's also important to own mistakes and find out what can be done differently for yourself or for your team overall. So we have a very transparent culture, and when mistakes happen, anyone, anytime can call that mistake out and say, what happened? What can we do differently? What do we need to change immediately? Do we need to triage the situation? What can we learn? That is full stop. No one has ever been punished or penalized for making a mistake at Mizzen and Main. We can have a frank conversation, especially if a mistake is repeated, about how critical it is to not repeat that. including what protocols might we need to put in place? Do we need to have someone else proofread? Is that not your core strength? A lot of people are force fit into roles that do not necessarily fit their strengths, and it's not necessarily their fault. Some people just don't have the right operating system for some tasks. So you got to get that right. And then when you think about kind of purpose and how that goes from how people operate, I look at that in summary as, we've talked a lot about it internally as mastery, autonomy, and purpose. That's what motivates people more than anything else. It's not money, it's not limelight, it's not just recognition. At the end of the day, a lot of studies have shown at work, if you allow people to flourish in an environment where they can master something and own it, where they can work independently but be supported, and that they're working towards a purpose that they feel passionate about, anything is possible. So we focus a lot on that, where we want to set people up, we have to put them in the right role for their core competencies, that they understand what their true responsibilities are and what success looks like for each of those responsibilities. And then that there's a continuous feedback loop so people understand directionally, am I moving in the right direction or am I not meeting expectations and obligations?
That is fabulous. And MAP, Mastery, Autonomy, Purpose. What a great little acronym and a great little set of reminders that is. You know, one of the things that I think a lot of entrepreneurs sit back and they'll think about is they think about the co-founder and they think about the first hires. What did you do and what did you learn? Obviously one we find out was, and I apologize for that, not your very good friend, your wife. Then there's usually those 1, 2, or 3 first employees, not volunteers, not a PR person willing to help you out a little bit, but the first real hires, money's coming out of the pocket and you're taking care of them. What were those first 3 for you, and are they still with you? And what was special about how you selected them?
Yeah, so some of my very first hires changed the course of the company and are still with us today. Our first hire is Kristen Smith. She came on to just kind of be a jack of all trades, or Jill of all trades, and help us out across the board. She now runs all of sales for us. She is our Chief Commercial Officer. My third hire, Lindsay Sullivan, has grown up with us. We were one of her first jobs out of school, and she's now a marketing director. She oversees a huge amount of responsibility. Those 2 individuals have just so much commitment and so much dedication to what we're doing, and they've become great friends of mine, some of the most important people in my life. Second hire was a friend of mine who really helped get some of our first sales off the ground in the wholesale industry, found something that he loved because he hadn't really done that before, and now he's grown on to some other opportunities that are just extraordinary for him, what he wants to do, get out there and hit the road, and he's really helped build up a number of exciting opportunities with some other companies. Still stay in touch, and he wears our product all the time and still a great advocate. So Joe Lafko, good friend, excited for what we were able to do together and excited for the work that he's doing now.
So you have some very interesting investors and people that are at the height of profession who actually can be tastemakers and marketing voices.
Yes.
So who are they and how did you come across them? Because a lot of people are looking for things like that, regardless of the industry. I wish this person could come and invest with us because, boy, what a great platform they've had to talk to people about it. But more important than just maybe being well known in some sector, they would be very credible in this particular part of my product or service.
Absolutely.
How did this turn out for you?
Well, starting at most recent and working backwards, we just closed around at the beginning of 2017 with L. Catterton, which is the world's largest consumer retail private equity group. It's a partnership of the very storied Catterton partners out of Greenwich, Connecticut. Great investment track record, great operators, great investors, great partners. They partnered with LVMH's private equity group, L Capital, and Bernard Arnault, who runs LVMH, his family office. So that group together, they have so much experience in the retail and consumer space. They have helped us get so much better in our decision making, in our analysis, how we think about building out the team, where to make some strategic investments. They are a really great partner for us, but it took us years to get to the point where a firm of that caliber wants to invest in us. I think when people start companies, they think, oh, I just need to get one of those big investors to come in. You need to build something over a number of years, typically before a bigger firm is going to come in. And so when we started out, I bootstrapped for a while, didn't pay myself, just tried to do whatever we could to get every dollar in the door from a sales perspective. And then I went out and tried to find some strategic investors. David Schottenstein, the Schottenstein family out of Columbus, Ohio, deep history in the retail industry. He started and sold a couple companies in the industry. He put a check in, meaningful amount of money for us, but he invested in a lot of different companies. But he was able to help come in and make some strategic introductions for us. And it gave us credibility, because if a successful entrepreneur in the space wanted to invest in us, then it gave us, again, a little bit of that credibility for other people to come in and look at us. Press looked at us a little bit differently. And then it helped us go get some other investors as well.
Fantastic. And I think you make these, a lot of your shirts and everything is for the athletic man. And I think you have a prominent athlete that actually is an investor as well as a very vociferous spokesperson.
Yeah, so we've done a lot of work with pro athletes. We have about 500 pro athletes now that wear our product, but we struck up a great relationship with JJ Watt a few years ago. Through a couple contacts that I had, he got a shirt of ours, and he couldn't believe that when he put it on, his 6'5", 300+ pound frame, that it fit off the rack, because the shirt stretches and moves and has a great athletic cut. So he said, I just have to be involved with this company. So we had some conversations through intermediaries for a little while, and then we got to meet in the middle of 2015. And he said, I want to be involved. So he actually has a stake in our business now. And gosh, what an amazing spokesperson. He just won Walter Payton Man of the Year award, 3-time Defensive Player of the Year award. He holds all these records, amazing athlete, but extraordinary human. He is just such a great representative of all that is good. Hard work, discipline, family man, gives back, great teammate, widely respected throughout the league. Couldn't ask for a better spokesperson. And gosh, it's been fun to work with him as well. He's funny. He looks great in our shirts. People love him. It's a great relationship.
Or your shirt looks great on him.
That too. I like that.
One of the last things I want to get to, entrepreneurs, you've brought it up a couple times. We all have a bootstrap phase, and I guess there's no hard definition of bootstrap, but it's usually less than $100,000 that you scrape together on your own, and you don't pay yourself over an amount of time. Mm-hmm. Not 100 grand you had in the bank. It's 100 grand that you scrape together over time while you're, eating mac and cheese and just doing everything you can to make it go. And then it comes time to get the first investors involved. Mm-hmm. Who are the very first investors that you got, even if it was seed following Bootstrap?
Yep.
And what did you do at that moment? Because that's usually the hardest door for an entrepreneur to walk through.
I think there's a great lesson in sales as you can take into the world of seeking investors. We have a product-based company. If I can't get friends, family, and my network to buy my product, I'm probably not going to be able to get strangers to buy my product. And I think that's something that people miss when they want to come out of the door and just blow it out and just go all over the country, all over the world and sell their product. Start with friends and family. Start with your network. If they won't buy your product, that's a great lesson. It's not a good product. It's not priced appropriately. It's the wrong message. It's the wrong marketing. Focus close to home first. So carry that forward to investors. Your family doesn't have to have money. That's a great place to get a small loan, a convertible note, maybe an investment into the company.
F&F seed.
Family and friends. You can start with, if your family doesn't have those funds, start with friends, start with networks, start with mentors, start with colleagues. It can be $1,000, $5,000, $50,000, depending on what you're doing and what you're raising. Start there. Because if you can't sell them on the vision, if they can't believe in you, it doesn't mean that there's no shot, but that may cause you to pause and reflect before you walk into a stranger's office or a stranger's home and say, you should invest in me. Because the other component of it, when you go to strangers, the first people you talk to who you don't know, if you have no backing from anyone else, they're gonna go, I'm not sure I wanna be first. Now, it's very rare that's the case, that someone might hop in who has no interest or knowledge of you prior and you have no investors. It's possible, but get that close to home first. If you walk in and you say, I have $50,000 from friends and family, they believe in what I'm doing, and here we go, and I'm looking for you to match that. Even they have no reason to believe in your friends and family more than you right in front of them, there is some level of credibility that comes from momentum. Don't lie about it ever. Actually have that ready to go. It doesn't mean that they have to have written you the check yet. If you say to your friends and family, I need you to back me 50, and I'm gonna go get 50 from some strangers, from some seed investors, from an angel network, that's an opportunity where you can actually work those two together to get that first 100,000 after you've put everything in that you can. And I think the last thing that's important to note is I've spoken to various entrepreneurs over the years who say, I've got this idea and I'm going to go raise $500,000, $1 million, $5 million, whatever. And I ask them, well, what have you put in? What have you done so far? And they say, well, nothing yet because I'm going to go get funded. Be cautious there, because some people's life circumstances, they can't do anything unless they get some outside coverage, and that's understandable and it's possible. But when you walk into an investor's office and you say, I've put nothing in, no one that I know has put anything in, and I want you to pay my salary, that no investor is going to back that, because they need to know that you're all in also. And if you're just getting a salary now and they're going to pay your salary, you're probably not going to do anything it takes to make it to be successful.
You know, skin in the game is such a ratifier, and you know, you can have belief, you can have vision, you can have passion, but then when you also put the skin in the game, then you get others to believe in you enough, believe in the product, to do a little bit, even if that's a very small amount of money from the Bootstrap
Absolutely.
and the friends and family. It is a ratifier. There is a lot of wisdom in what you just said, and that is, I hope you're taking notes on that, because what you saw there is basically a blueprint that so many entrepreneurs have to follow to walk down the path from starting something to actually getting the more meaningful investment to it.
Yeah, and I would just add to that, people's life circumstances are different. You may have certain obligations, family to support. Bear all of that in mind. You don't have to make nothing for 5 years in order to prove that you're in it. Make sure that you are taking care of your family. It's really hard to focus on product delivery and customers if the lights aren't on. So make sure that you have your bases covered, but know that you got to put skin in the game.
What parting shot would you like to share?
I think I'd love to close with, this is an unbelievably difficult journey. It's also, outside of my wife and son, the most rewarding journey of my life. I have found more fulfillment and joy in building a company and getting to work with extraordinary people than I ever thought possible. And that is not by accident. I focused a lot on trying to live and lead with gratitude and making sure that I enjoy the moment, slow down, reflect on all the wondrous things that happen, because plenty of terrible things happen too.
Yeah.
And don't lose sight of the opportunity that we have in this country to build great things, because not everywhere in the world has this extraordinary opportunity that we do here, and enjoy the ride. You should find a way to enjoy those small wins as much as the big wins, because the tough things will chip away at you, and then you'll have big things that will just sweep you down some days. And if you can find a way to kind of live through those small wins as big as you live through the big ones, I think you'll find a much more rewarding experience throughout the journey.
That is a phenomenal note to end on. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for sharing this. And thank you for watching Beer and Business. And we'll be back in 2 weeks with another entrepreneur with more nuggets of wisdom, talking about how you can make yourself, your company, and those around you better. Thank you for watching. Until next time, I'm Tom Ellsworth, the Biz Doc, hoping I left you better than I found you.